Hey everyone, we're back here in Bali, and I wanted to take some time today to talk about surviving as a white belt. I think learning jiu-jitsu comes with its own sets of challenges, so I kind of came up with like 5 things to kind of help you through that process of being a white belt in the gym and what that kind of pertains and what you can do to kind of like ease that pain and learning to kind of survive as you go through the process. And I think survival's like the best word kind of when it talks about learning jiu-jitsu in the beginning. Like I know when I started jiu-jitsu, I was like really excited. I'd been like a really big fan of MMA already for years. And I kind of expected things to go differently. So like managing my expectations was definitely like something I had to learn right away. But I think like the first thing that jiu-jitsu teaches you is it teaches you how to be a student. Okay. So one of the biggest things that comes with being a student is like just asking for help. There's going to be like so many new things you're exposed to in jiu-jitsu that it can be quite overwhelming, especially in the beginning. So just really kind of take your time in the beginning to start with like identifying the areas you don't understand. When I first started jiu-jitsu, like I remember when I would be rolling, that sometimes you would almost like black out in certain positions. Like you didn't know what was going on. It was all so overwhelming. Everything seemed so fast. And it took time for me to get comfortable with simply just identifying the positions. So like when you're new to class, and especially when you're sparring, you're going to be exposed to so many different things that you just need to kind of take the time to ask, like your sparring partners or your coaches, whoever you're sparring with, just being like, hey, what position was that? What was going on there? Like, what did you just tap me with? All those little questions are really important when you're first starting out, because a lot of like there's a lot of memorization that comes with jiu-jitsu. So like taking the time to identify all the positions you're having problems with is a big start, which kind of brings us into like focusing on the fundamentals of escapes. So like you hear people a lot of the time talk about like focus on fundamentals. But in jiu-jitsu, it's not really kind of clear what fundamentals are. You know, you got to kind of go through and find out for yourself what these positions are that you have to identify. But I think for beginners, the easiest thing you can do is, like I kind of touched on, which is focus on the fundamentals of escaping, which is a very different than like, focusing on all the general principles. You're going to work on all that stuff anyways, but typically when you spar, especially in the beginning, it's like the positions you're going to find yourself in most are the bad positions. You're going to find yourself on bottom and mount a lot, the bottom and side control, the bottom and half guard, the bottom are people on your back. So like these are going to be the positions that come up the most often. So start getting comfortable with the idea of just working your way out of those positions, having a couple options for escape. And a lot of times, like I think it's like as instructors too, we only focus on the positional escapes, but also for beginners, like really focus on submission escapes too. Like you're going to have to learn how to escape arm bars and kimuras and chokes, whatever the positions are that are coming up that you're like constantly getting stuck in, and just like make a mental effort to identify those positions as they come up. You might go to like the end of practice and realize it's like, oh, I got armbar 5 times. I really need to work on my armbar escapes. And slowly but surely, what you'll do is you'll start identifying those problems and you start working on the escapes. And as your skills build, you're going to be able to survive those positions and escape those positions. So typically what I would do is I would just acknowledge the small victories, right? You don't look at winning every round when you just start. Just survive the round. Just call it a victory if you escape the armbar. Call it a victory if you successfully pass the guard. Just those little things. You just need those little moments to kind of measure your growth on the mat. And I think that makes a really big difference in your growth in jiu-jitsu. It kind of helps you like ease along. Because like I said in the beginning, white belt's very overwhelming. That there's so much going on and you feel like there's so much you have to get good at. But when you focus on a couple small things each class or for the week or for the month or whatever it is, you'll start to be able to measure your growth much better. I think the last thing that I think is really important too is not only focusing on your weaknesses, but identifying some strengths and focusing on those. You might be tall and have long legs, so you might gravitate towards triangles. You might be short and stocky, so half guard might be a great position for you. So you kind of need to also start to identify the areas that are working for you in addition to the areas that you're not getting good in, but you need to focus on both. And over time, you'll develop more systems and skills based around your strengths as well, not only your weaknesses. So I think the last piece of advice that I think is really important is like jiu-jitsu never gets any easier, but it gets better. So if you're feeling like discouraged in jiu-jitsu, as you get more comfortable with the amount of like work ethic that you have to put into it to get good, you start to enjoy it much more. And as you start to kind of see that success and you start to see your growth, again, you'll start to enjoy the process a lot more. Again, I think it takes time. Like, try not to be in a hurry with your jiu-jitsu. Don't fall in the pitfalls of like comparing yourself to others. Sometimes people will come in and they'll pick it up faster than you. Sometimes people come in and they pick it up much slower than you. So you just kind of need to like identify where you are, enjoy where you're at, and really focus on like the science of jiu-jitsu, like understanding all the positions, understanding how they work, and slowly but surely you'll get better at escaping, and then you'll get better at countering, and then eventually you'll get better at getting in control and being able to control your teammates or your opponent. You'll start to have more success, and then from there you'll just grow and move on to the next phase. So closing thoughts. So if you're like really stressed about like thinking when you hit this blue belt phase it's going to get like much easier, but it's just like a whole new set of problems come. It's kind of how it goes throughout jiu-jitsu. Like, you finally survive as a white belt, then jiu-jitsu gets harder. They bump you up to blue belt. You finally get the hang of blue belt, then all of a sudden you're a purple belt, and it just goes on and on like that. But it's a hell of a ride. Like, really enjoy the journey of what jiu-jitsu brings. There's so much to value. There's so many benefits. So if you're wondering like, how long do I have to survive as a white belt until I get good? Try not to look at it that way. Focus on the small things. Identify your problem areas. Keep working fundamentals, and you'll slowly see your measure and growth, and you'll just keep getting better and better. All right, guys, so I'm going to keep making videos like this. If you're enjoying what you're watching, feel free to leave me comments, ask questions. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching.